Welcome back, everybody, to another The Morning After AEW Dynamite, July 10th, 2024 edition. We kicked off Dynamite this week with a very good Will Ospreay MJF promo, and it largely started off with Will, like, right away, just getting into he had to take care of business with Daniel Garcia and MJF. He's really sticking up for Daniel Garcia, putting over how much every time he gains momentum, MJF tries to put him down and bury him due to like MJF's more recent heel turn from last week. And now over Collision, he basically turned full heel. And he's better in that role anyway, so I don't really have a problem with that. But I think there was still some mileage left in the tank for MJF as a face, but that's just not how the cards are going and where he probably wants to go as a character. But, it suits him better as a heel anyway, and he's much better guy to like just hate. But he gets into like some of the reasons he's got a problem with MJF, and he kind of makes some jabs against, hey, the bidding war of 2024 didn't really work out for him. Well, I've seen online a lot of people agree, and I agree with this sentiment too. I don't see how it didn't work for MJF. He got a very big contract offer from Tony, and he re-signed with AEW. So I don't really get too much about that little jab, unless you're trying to get at he really wanted to leave to go to WWE, and they never gave him an offer or gave him one big enough. I don't know. That was kind of a sticking point in his promo where it's like, yo, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was a nice little jab, but it really made like no sense in actual like storytelling perspective. But he got into, you think you're the best, you think you're this, you're that. And Will basically just says, I'm above the level of the devil. I'm in the penthouse suite, bitch. And so he basically just kind of lays into MJF quite a bit. He says, I'm here to bring this company up. What you hate about me is it reminds me of the spirit of this company. And so Will is definitely putting forth, he's really putting forward that he's got the like the best interest. Got this. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning After AEW Dynamite, July 10th, 2024 edition. We kicked off this Dynamite with a Will Ospreay promo, and it was a pretty good promo. I was pretty excited about it as it was going along. He just had a point in there, a point of logic contention with me and a lot of other people, where he's basically saying, hey, that little bidding war of 2024, it really didn't work out for you that well, did it, MJF? Well, I kind of don't really understand that. He re-signed with the company for a big money deal, and he basically said he squeezed Tony for every penny he could get, and that he would rather spend money on talent like Will Ospreay instead. That doesn't really quite make a whole lot of sense logistically or storyline wise, but I'll look over that. I mean, that takes a point off a little bit for me on the promo, but it's still a really good promo from Will. He's clearly trying to assume the babyface role here, and he makes a really good babyface. So I really don't have a problem with that. And he was standing up for Daniel Garcia in his promo and talking about like he's now on the shelf, and every time Daniel starts getting momentum, you always tend to get in his way because he can't get anybody too popular that might rival MJF. And I may not be on the level of the devil because I'm in the penthouse. And then he challenges MJF to come strolling on out. He's ready for a fight right now. And then we get the MJF music. You think he's going to come out. Of course not. He does the typical, I'm going to do this from the view screen, or the AEW Tron, whatever they actually call that thing. And he's basically just sitting in the back, sipping his wine, being his cocky usual self, and basically tells him, no, I'm not going to come out there. But, basically after a couple of put downs, next week we can wrestle for that little international championship belt. So, and Will clearly accepted, and he looks like we're building up to next week. Honestly, it was a pretty good promo between the two. I would have preferred more in-ring, but I don't know if they're really working towards setting that up yet. I think they would do pretty well. I don't think Will gets too flustered by anything. And I think, it would be good for Will to actually have a back and forth in ring with MJF. But I can see that they're holding back just a tick on that. But Will's been doing very well promo wise, and he's a pretty damn good wrestler. MJF is, of course, top notch as always. So I'm very intrigued by this story. Kind of clunky how we got here, but I'm pretty game for it. And then after that, we roll right on into the Owen Cup final for the men, and we get Hangman Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson. And Jeff Jarrett is the special ring enforcer for this, and that's very fitting. They're in Calgary, and Jeff was big best friends with Owen. He loved him to death. And so that was very fitting. And I like how Hangman comes out of the face tunnel and Jarrett's looking at the heel tunnel like he's expecting him to come out that way. So they got some good nuance going with Hangman. I got to admit, this is my favorite version of Hangman so far. I used to like, kind of the drinking kind of like Hangman. That was always kind of fun until it kind of got serious and went after Kenny. But ultimately, I like the nuance here. But when I first saw Jeff standing there, I'm like, are they going to do a heel turn with Jeff Jarrett? Please don't do that. Don't do that. And fortunately for us, I'll get to the ending of the match very soon. But ultimately, this was an excellent, excellent match between Page and Bryan Danielson. They've had 3 matches before. They're basically split across the board. It's a really good, solid match. Hangman's definitely playing up being a heel, and Danielson's definitely kind of playing up more of the face that he can be. I think he's a really great face, but he's a really good asshole too. So, but I really enjoyed the match. Really good grappling, really good wrestling, and Danielson busted out some high flying, which was very cool to see. And ultimately, Danielson wins by pin, and he wins the Owen Cup Finals. He is now going to be challenging Swerve at AEW All In, the Wembley show. So that's very exciting. Page basically took off furious. And later on, we would get into a little backstage segment with him about what they're doing with him story-wise. But right now, so far, I am pretty okay with this. I almost really thought like Hangman was going to win this, and then that would be the all-in pay-per-view between Page and Swerve. But they're playing a little loose with Swerve and how he is. He seems to be more of a in-between right now, and Page is more heelish. So I don't think they're quite ready to pull the trigger on a full face angle between Swerve and then Hangman, where Hangman's the heel and Swerve is the total face. I think we will get there. I think that'll probably be more World's End at the end of the year. I think that's what we're building to. I could be wrong. That's just my little educated guess because he just came back, but they're building up Page, and he's based on what happens later. I think they need to finish a current angle with him, and then we'll get rolling with Page as he roars towards maybe World's End, possibly Full Gear. But basically, what I really like about this match otherwise, and I'll get to my little rating in just a moment, is Nigel McGuinness on commentary is absolutely a gem. He was dropping lines. He's been like having jabs against Bryan for like months whenever he calls one of his matches. So he continually references his old feud in Ring of Honor with Bryan, and I think that's outstanding. And Nigel is just completely hilarious. I think he's given some of the best commentary work I have ever heard from him. I really would like to see him more featured on commentary. If he could be just part of the regular rotation for either Dynamite or even Collision. Now, I need to start getting caught up on Collision episodes. I'm more watching just Dynamite. And, if the videos start turning out well, maybe I can jump into doing some Collision too. But Nigel's line of, why did you have to have a child with that? Just had me in stitches as he's talking about Bryan and him having kids with with Brie, which is really funny. And Nigel is just like laying into him the whole match. I think it's just super funny and it's really enjoyable. And I wrote down on my little notes here that maybe at World's End, if that's when Brian Danielson is having his last match. I think they said it was going to be like over the summer, but if he's finishing out the whole year, my honest opinion would be if Brian was to have his last final match with Nigel and give Nigel that last moment for both of them, I think that would be very fitting because that was an amazing feud in Ring of Honor years ago. And it just seems like there's got to be a point to all of this. He can't just keep doing the jabs on commentary without any sort of payoff. I know they've done it years before TNA with like Taz. He would be on the mic as like aces and eights. I know, aces and eights. But still, like having a heel doing like these kind of jabs and continually doing stuff like this. And this is more than like what Corey does on WWE, where he has some jabs, but he doesn't really get so personal and so like in a vendetta against anybody. With Nigel, it feels like there's something more there. And they've been talking about this for like a while now, for like the last year, as far as like jabs between the two. And even last year during a press conference, Brian was saying Nigel's just not at the level he should be to take me on, and he'll never be there. He's just not that good anymore, or let alone he can't do this anymore, period. And so there is so much to do with that. I don't know, just a guess. But I would absolutely give this a thumbs up match. And then after that, we scroll right on into a Swerve promo immediately after Brian gets his cup and his championship belt. He's given it by Martha Hart and Jeff Jarrett. It's a very cool moment and very touching. Then Swerve kind of makes his way on out. Everybody leaves the ring. I would have thought Brian would have, I know I say Daniel like all the freaking time for all the years in WWE, but I would have thought Brian might have stayed out there, but he was kind of bleeding during the match with Hangman Page, so he kind of had to probably get some medical attention, get stitches for however he got nicked there. But Swerve came out, cut a pretty decent promo. He basically is like, Brian, I will see you at All In. And then he's challenging Okada. And he's saying like, hey, you're a Continental Champion. I've been beating all the other champions around here. I got one more to go, and that's with Okada. So that match is set up for next week. So we got Swerve versus Okada next week. I think Okada's going to be putting on his working shoes for that one. There's been, some opinions about him and how the Elite are kind of taking away the specialness of Okada. I think that's been done for a very good purpose and very good reason. And he needs to get acclimated to the style of AEW. I feel like he's now there so that when it comes to the special events, the special matches, he can turn it up to the full 110%. So being in six mans, everybody can take it easy just a tick, unless you're going to go full wild and you're wrestling like the House of Black or something. But I think next week we're finally going to get a high level Okada singles match. And I think that's going to be very special for everybody. So I'm very much looking forward to that myself. If it ends up being a bust, I will eat my words and I'll be like, okay, Okada really is on the Shinsuke Nakamura retirement tour in America. But I don't think so. I think it'll be a very good match. And then he talks about how Blood and Guts is coming up and how the Elite tried to get him on their side, and he's already put in that he's going to be on Team AEW. And he's got Mark Briscoe on there. Nobody else is like taking up the other three slots. I really hope it's not the Acclaimed. I really don't. They don't fit Blood and Guts, and their momentum has been completely like cooled off. Like a year ago, they were hot as hell. This year, they're not there. They're just not there anymore. And it's not that they're not a fun tag team to watch, but like Max with his new look, and he's not exactly delivering the best raps anymore or dropping beats on his way to the ring. But they did have a music video coming up, and that was really good, but I didn't like the video visuals. So I don't know who's making their camera videos, but I didn't like the idea of them pissing on the Bucks literally while they're knocked out or asleep. That's just kind of stupid in my opinion. Not kind of, it is stupid. And I don't think you want to show stuff like that. That's just not necessary. This isn't the Attitude Era. We don't have to go to that kind of juvenile humor, in my opinion. You can have the jokes, but the actual visual acts of things like that is just, it's totally not necessary. I know some people are going to be like, hey, but that's funny. Maybe for you, not for me. This is just my opinion here. But, we get a brief video package for the Owen finals for the women coming up between Willow and Mariah May. That was a really good video package. Lately, I got to admit, the video packages have been tight for all of AEW. Like, they're building up for matches on the show. They're building up for matches coming in weeks. And they're starting to do more video packages just to introduce people in general. I'm a big fan of that. That's going to help with the audience and kind of building up who you're trying to highlight and matches to highlight to bring in eyeballs to, hey, check out this match. It's going to be awesome. Or check out this new guy that's just signed. And so I think that's a really good touch. I really like what they're doing with that. So keep up the great work. After that little video package, then we had that music video I was just talking about. The song lyrics were fine. Visuals, I wasn't a big fan of. I've never really been that big a fan of like the Acclaim's like music videos. Like, the songs are all right. I'm not a hip hop guy, but that's just me. Don't mind me as I adjust my sheet. Then we roll right on into the Samoa Joe Jericho Stampede Street Fight, everybody. And this was a very fun match. I wasn't a big fan of the ending until they showed how the ultimate ramifications happen. But, I really like how Jericho interjects like the horseshoes in the match. It's a pretty standard match between the two. I don't think I've really ever seen them like wrestle or if they've ever interacted. I know they were both in WWE at a particular moment. But I don't think they actually like wrestled or did anything like that together. So for a first time match, this was pretty okay. Samoa could smoke them. I'm sorry, Jericho. Joe could smoke you most of the time. He was just a world champ not even 6 months ago. But, it's a fun match. It's basically a little street fight. Once they get out of the ring and they start going to the back, it's like, oh, I wonder what kind of crazy antics we're going to get into now. Because it's Jericho and he's doing this goofy gimmick of the learning tree. And, he's out there with Brian Keith. I really like Joe. One last point about before they left the ring and went to the back is Joe did the walkaway spot, and I thought was very well done because Jericho ultimately crashed into the steel stairs that go down the ring from the ramp or from the ring apron. And it was super funny how Joe did the walkaway. It was well timed, very short, and ultimately it was perfect. It was well done, well timed, everything looked great. And so they go to the back, they do their normal brawling around. Jericho throws a hot cup of coffee in Joe's face. And from that point on, Jericho lays into him. Big Bill comes out and evens up the odds as Joe starts turning it around. And then they basically triple team Joe. They throw him on top of a pallet on a forklift. And then they run the forklift with Joe on it through a wall. Now, the wall is clearly fake, but I really like that concept, that idea. And it basically ran through the wall. And the idea is that it wasn't the wall that got Joe. It was going through the wall and then being ejected off the forklift into the cement wall because he's laying up against the cement wall with his head. They don't show any blood. Probably a good idea not to do that there. We already have enough blood on the show as it is already from Danielson. And then they basically stop the match there. I've never seen a street fight where they stop the match. There's intentionally like no rules like that, but it's a ref stoppage. And so Jericho unfortunately wins the match and he starts acting a bit like despondent and like out of it and just starts giggling and he's totally lost his mind. And I don't know where that's going to lead for him as a character, but if they're going to keep doing this as part of the learning tree shtick, I'm curious to see where it goes. But clearly we're not done with Joe, Jericho, and even like Shibata and Hook. We're not done with this story. Hopefully we get a payoff at All In. I don't think this needs to drag out that much longer than that, or even maybe even All Out. But I can see this going until then. They've gotten Hook out for now, and then they just put Joe out. Probably they're going to take care of Shibata. We'll probably have a week or two without him, and then we're probably going to get them all rolling in. So I'm not thinking all in, so maybe all out. We will see that at. But kind of depends on what they're doing and what kind of speed they want to progress through the storyline. And then the big question is, where do you go after that? They haven't really been teasing anything else or anybody else for the learning tree. So I guess we'll see, because House of Black is going to be tied up. Collision's like completely wild with all the 6-man stuff going on. So guess we'll end up having to see where we go with the learning tree. But I would call that match, I give that a thumbs up, but the overall match was just kind of thumbs in the middle with the ending. So you know what? Never mind. I'm going to go thumbs in the middle, but the post match was thumbs up because they did a stretcher job on Joe. And then they cue the camera back and they show Jericho and Keith and Big Bill just standing there waving, just being like total, like complete wackos. Like they're completely like redneck hillbillies, just completely like having the goofy ass look and wild eyed look, like they're enjoying being polite and knowing that they're crazy at the same time. It kind of works. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not going to say it's like the best work I've seen them do, but it's working all right. And then we roll right on into the big global 4-way match, which had Kyle Fletcher, Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, and then it had Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan Wrestling. And this was for an international title shot. Ultimately, this was probably the best match of the night. So I'm going to give this like a total thumbs up, just straight up. And there was so much action going on. I think Kyle Fletcher nearly stole the show in this match, but everybody had a really good showing. Everything made sense. The psychology was great. The timing and how the match just flowed from beginning to end was just perfect. I really enjoyed this match. It was a lot of fun, and I really, really like how it highlighted everybody, but how Kyle actually really stood out amongst these guys. I see a very good future for Kyle Fletcher. I'm really eager for his tag team partner to get back from his injury. I'd like to see them continue that as a tag team, but if not, Kyle Fletcher is going to be really something someday, whether it's in the next couple of years or whatever ends up happening. Dude is money. I would keep him around. And I know they do that with a lot of wrestlers, like, and they never like move up a level, but I can see down the road there's some serious potential as in a singles run for Kyle Fletcher. But Pac wins with the brutalizer, and he taps out Kyle. It ends up being a pretty solid finish. I'm pretty okay with that. And then Pat grabs the mic and he basically says, I'm calling my all-in shot. I'm not missing my Wembley moment again, because last year he was out and he's back this time. He's going to get his title match against whoever wins between MJF and Mr. Will Ospreay. So whoever wins next week is going to be getting challenged by Pac at All In. I'm really not sure who's going to win that match. I have a feeling it might be a draw. I doubt it, but if they do that, I wouldn't be terribly shocked, so that they make it a 3-way, because he gets his shot and MJF's going to be like pissed that he didn't get his shot. I don't know. That just might be something that's an option. I would almost rather see Pac versus MJF, because I think that would be a very good match. But I'm assuming what I would do is Will somehow wins and he gets challenged by Pac, and then they have a teardown at the house, or they tear the house down. Sorry. I'm doing this right after watching the show just now, and I'm still energized from the ending of that show, which I'll get to in just a moment. But I think whatever they do, it's going to be a great match at All In. Whoever's in that international title match, I think it's going to be awesome. I really like how different storylines are starting to intermingle. As Pac was talking about how his year hasn't exactly gone his way, but he's going to make it his way now going forward. I think that's a really good promo. I'm really enjoying the promos after the matches. After the match is literally over, they grab a mic and they start talking. Now, I don't need to see that in every match, but once or twice in a show, I dig that. That reminds me of a very different time in wrestling. and I'm really liking that little difference in detail. And just a special shout out to the camera and the director of the show. Like you're doing very good job with the shots. You are getting some great camera angles, and you're catching a lot more than had been being caught before. Sometimes there was missed camera angles, missed action. This felt like one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. Very well done on the camera work, guys. Keep up the great work. And then, so for that match, like I said, total thumbs up. And then we get a little backstage promo with Hangman. It's more of like a backstage segment of sorts. It's not really a promo. Renee's trying to talk to Hangman. He tries to brush her off, and she gets a little assertive and aggressive. And she basically says, "Please talk to me. You can't keep treating me like this. I have a job to do here." You know, and it looked like he was going to say something, but then he pounded on the door, and out came Okada, who's like, "What do you want?" And Hangman wants to talk to the Bucks. Okada's like, "You can talk to me." Basically, like, "What do you want?" "No, what do you want?" And then the Bucks come out because Hangman and Okada are kind of staring daggers in each other. And that goes back to the very first Forbidden Door where they had their match together. So I think that's some good subtlety there. And so basically Hangman says, "I'm in, consider it done." He's putting in for the blood and guts match. So he's now their fifth member. Now we're waiting on the other three for Team AEW. Please don't let it be the Acclaim. Please actually pick a different tag team. I would greatly appreciate that. But ultimately, that's a very nice nod and touch. Renee's out of there. I'm kind of wondering if they're also setting up another Moxley angle. I don't know for sure. Just something in the back of my head is just going, if Hangman's going to need a little time to get built up for, like, say, Full Gear or World's End, after this blood and guts match, what's something he might be able to do? Not just Okada for a match, but maybe Moxley too. Because if he's going to be this kind of tweener where he's coming out the face tunnel, but he's a total dick and an asshole, and he's going to be a bad guy, then, this could be interesting. It does feel a little bit like we're going down Drew Galloway territory, Drew McIntyre. But it could be going down that way, but we might be doing something different. Time will tell with this story, but stories with Hangman have always been pretty nuanced and very long and drawn out. I can definitely see something more going on here, possibly with Moxley again. I'm not opposed to that. That's a great match between the two. It'd probably be a death match of sorts. I would guess that would be a Full Gear, and then after, then you roll into Swerve versus Hangman for the title at World's End. Just my guess. And after that segment, CEO Mercedes Moné interview segment, she had her little title celebration. It wasn't much of anything, but she is definitely healing up for the crowd. And she went into, "I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that downright gets you your ass kicked." But, Britt came out. She ran through the security, chased off Mercedes, and kind of a nothing happening segment. This was fine. It's building up their feud, but it really wasn't much to this other than a quick little, "Hey, I'm a heel." And then Britt runs her off. So I'm going to be pretty excited for the match. Guess we'll just have to wait and see how it actually... No, let's not wait and see how it goes. This better be a good match. Britt delivers. Mercedes needs to kind of step it up a bit. She's still a little lacking in the timing in the ring, but I think it could be a very good match. I hope it really is. I'm a little tentative going in because I know Britt can do a fantastic job. But all that aside, I am excited for the match, and I'm actually looking forward to another promo between the two where we're not doing the, "Hey, I need to celebrate. Hey, I'm back, everybody." We can actually just get right into the meat and bones. I'm suspecting that'll be happening probably next week, I'm guessing. And then what do we get into next? We get another backstage segment. It's basically Brandon Cutler beat up and on the ground going, "Please, no, please stop." And then you pull back and you see Darby Allin in a nice little pink furry coat beating up poor Brandon Cutler. Sorry, Brandon. You don't have the best luck, do you, buddy? But Ultimately, Darby says he's back and he hasn't forgotten about anything or anybody. And that completely blew me away. I was not expecting Darby back this time soon. I thought he was going to be taking some time off for injuries and just taking some time off, but he's a workaholic. You can't keep the man down. He's going to do his thing, and I'm glad to have him back. Big question also here is going to be, what do you do with him after? Because I'm thinking he's going to be in Blood and Guts too. That'll lead to some issues between him and Swerve. Swerve's got feuds for days, so we could be seeing him as a champ for a while. I guess we'll see. But I'm a fan of Darby. I'm more curious about the follow-up rather than, hey, cool, he's back and he's going to be in Blood and Guts. Then what? Guess we'll see. My guess is he'll be going after Jack Perry after that and going for the TNT title run. That seems to be a very good division and belt for him. And I think that's a pretty good way to go. What we'll see is another question again. And then we have our main event of the night, the Owen Cup final for the women, Willow Nightingale versus Mariah May. The match was good. It could have been better. Ultimately, by the end of the match, they really gotten rolling. I feel like they could have used maybe another 5-10 minutes. This maybe should have been more set for the middle of the show. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been the main event. Great choice for a main event because of the post-match. But I really did like that they put this on in the main event. I just feel like they could have had a few more minutes. Like, you could have started the match a few minutes earlier, possibly, or you had it in a different position on the card. However, they earned their main event spot. The match ended up being really good. Definite thumbs up from me. I'm a fan of both. They both are very good workers. And there was really not too much crazy going on in the match as far as, like, Tony Storm and Luther, but there was the run-in from Chris Statlander and Stokely as they tried to get in the way of Willow winning. Ultimately, that proved to be not really much of a factor in the match because they wrestled. There was a few false finishes after that and for both of them, so it really didn't play that much in the larger role and context of the match. And ultimately, Mariah May pins her, wins the Owen Cup final. Her and Tony celebrate all happy and jumping and skipping, and they work their way up the ramp. Tony's going for the Owen Hart Championship belt that she just won and immediately freaking smokes Tony Storm and beats the shit out of her. She whips her with the championship belt. She beats the crap out of freaking Luther, knocks him off the stage, puts him through a table. That was totally awesome. Luther, good job on the bump, buddy. You did all the work, but it looked great. And then she goes back. Tony is is bleeding. I haven't seen a woman bleed on AEW in a very long time. I know we've seen some here and there, but not in a long time. Not since the infamous Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa match from years ago. It was that bloody. It was a hell of a visual, and Mariah's just standing over her, kisses her, and just kind of grabs her head while Tony is like sobbing at the betrayal. And this was so well done. And you almost felt like, okay, Tony's a little too happy here. When's she going to turn on Mariah? Because you see it coming. Like, okay, we're setting something up here. When's Tony going to do so? Oh, shit, it's Mariah. And that was super great. It was super well done with timing. There was no hesitation. There was no sudden pause of, okay, I got the belt. Hey, look at the belt. And then you kind of half run. No, she grabbed the second she had the belt free, she just went straight after Tony. And that was chef's kiss with timing. It was a great twist, great heel turn in the final moments. And Mariah is just off and running as a heel. That's the way to go. Tony should be a face. Let's just do this and just go with it. Face run for Tony now. And Mariah's full baddie. She's been planning this for the longest time. The big question is going to be Mina Shirakawa. I thought they were setting them up for a fun little trio, at least for a little while. I know I said this at like Forbidden Door, but apparently that's not going to happen. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with this going forward. But this was a hell of an ending after a great match. Post-match gets like, God, it's got to give you 2 thumbs up. And it's the most excited I've been about a Dynamite in a while. I'm a fan of AEW, but there's always been shows where it's like, oh, this was good, this was great, but there was a couple other things that are kind of in the middle or not so great at all. And this show from beginning to end was very, very good. I do have a problem with a little bit of the acclaimed stuff. I'm not feeling them right now. And so I'm not really sure I feel like they're getting shoehorned a little too much. They could probably use a little break from TV, but I understand there's still a draw to an extent, and you got to feature them. Anthony's a terrific wrestler, and Billy's fantastic. Just not a fan of Max. Sorry, that's just, I'm not digging the act just isn't hot right now. And with FTR on the shelf, it kind of leaves open what could happen. Blood and guts. I have a feeling we're going to be bringing in some hired guns, so to speak. Motor City Machine Guns. I think they'll be joining Team AEW. Just a guess. I'm probably wrong. It's probably going to be the Acclaimed. But if you want shock value, I would bring in Motor City Machine Guns. They have an old history with the Young Bucks. So I think that would be very fitting, and I think that would work out well. The big question would be the fifth person. I would argue you can't have a Blood and Guts without Moxley, but that's just my opinion. I doubt. We'll see. We'll see. Mox is probably going to have another couple weeks off, or we'll see. I could be wrong on that too. I know I say that a lot. We will see. I could be wrong. Hey, just guesses, having fun speculating about what's going to happen. But overall, this was an excellent show. Great final match, great main event, and great post match, and great visual with Mariah standing over a defeated Toni Storm. I'm excited for All In, and I hope you are too. Hey, if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. I like doing these videos. I know I'm a little young at doing the wrestling vids. I'm more used to doing like, hey, I'm covering a TV show, or we're talking about a cult classic film, or just rolling on a live stream. I really love my wrestling, and I got thoughts, and I just want to share them and reactions too. So please, if you like the videos, do hit the like button. Also, put a comment down below. Do you have any favorite matches or moments of the night? Anything I didn't cover you think I should cover? Or was there something that I liked and you didn't? Hey, that's okay. Put those comments down below. That really does help. And also hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification, and that'll keep you tuned in to all of our video content. And I want to say thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all on the next Dynamite.